on how you can get started with flash loans, how you can start building your own applications with them and use them for profit. Whatever you want to do, I'm giving you the tools tonight to unlock a really powerful feature of blockchain development. Okay, so I'm super excited to give you this masterclass, take you in depth on this topic, and tell you everything that you need to know. So for everybody who's asking, yes, if you're watching this right now during the presentation, this is 100% live. If you're watching this later, of course, I've sent out the replay. So everybody who's joined either through the membership program or joined the one-time masterclass tonight, you've got this replay link available after tonight in case you have any questions. Okay, I want to rewatch the content. So, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching it on an embedded web page or you're into the membership program or you're watching it live on YouTube, make sure we keep all the questions for tonight in the chat section. Okay, there's a little bit of housekeeping stuff before we get started on the presentation, but that really helps keep everything on track. Keep all those questions in the YouTube chat, please. That's what I'm going to be watching, not the Slack channel for the membership program. We'll have questions throughout the presentation tonight, but I'd like to keep a bulk of them towards the end, okay, because we've got a lot of material to cover. And I just want to make sure that we can cover everything for our allotted time slot tonight, okay? So let's just see here if there's any other thing that I missed. So yeah, all the resources tonight for the presentation are down in the description of the video if you're watching live tonight. Okay, there's a link for the code that we're going to go through. If you've got the replay, that should be sent out with you. If you're watching the replay, it's at the Blockchain Mastery Program. That code should also be down in the show description as well. So also, if you join the one-time masterclass tonight and you want to join the membership program, just reach out. There's going to be a place, where you can get weekly updated videos. You're going to get access to all the past masterclasses, some implementations for trading bots, other types of flash loans, all that type of stuff will be inside there. And while the material tonight, I'm going to give you the tools to do flash loans. We don't have enough time to really do step-by-step coding on everything. You're going to get complete code solutions to everything. But if you want to learn the step-by-step coding skills, then definitely the best way to do that is the Blockchain Bootcamp. That's the step-by-step program that shows you how to become a blockchain developer from scratch. Okay, so I've got a discount link down in the description below for your 50% off membership to join on that as well. So, all right, that's all the housekeeping stuff out of the way. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's start off with, what is a flash loan? All right, because this is, like I said, this is one of the most powerful things that you can learn as a blockchain developer. The opportunity has really expanded lately, and that's one of the reasons I want to reboot this class tonight. So I'm sure a lot of you watching already understand this because that's why you signed up. But in case you're brand new, let's just talk about it. So basically, it's where you can borrow, millions of dollars of cryptocurrency for free, as long as you pay it back in the same transaction. So what does that mean? Well, basically, there's all these decentralized finance apps out there, or DeFi apps, that have all this money sitting inside of them, okay? They're called liquidity pools. And these liquidity pools are just reservoirs of funds that can be used inside these decentralized finance applications, lending and borrowing apps, cryptocurrency exchange. There's all this money just parked inside of there, okay? And these applications, the typical function of this money is to facilitate trades, to facilitate lending and borrowing. But many of them have opened up flash loan features where basically you have access to all the capital sitting inside these liquidity pools to borrow as long as you pay it back instantly, all right? You don't have to put any money down to do this. You don't have to have any money to get started. Some of them require a small fee, okay? But that fee can be paid from the profit. But as long as you pay back in the same transaction. So what does that mean? We might get confused and say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. What good is it for me to pay back? How can I use money and pay it back instantly? Well, that's where blockchain transactions come into play. So let's think about what a blockchain transaction is in the first place. Let's start with a simple transaction, okay? So a transaction is any any final instruction that you see on the blockchain itself. So like Etherscan, let's just pull this up. Etherscan is, a website where we can go look at all the activity on top of the blockchain. So I'm literally just gonna pull up a random block here. We can look at all the transactions inside of here, and you can see that basically, all these are transactions. So inside of here, this is a simple transaction that is just a token transfer from one account to another. It has one instruction. If I were to perform this transaction, This is for $100 worth of DAI, which is a cryptocurrency. It's an ERC20 token on Ethereum. I could hold DAI in my blockchain wallet here, like MetaMask, and just send cryptocurrency from my account to yours. If I were the person doing this transaction, I could just send DAI to you, and that would be a very simple transaction here. Okay. Now, that being said, blockchains support complex transactions. All right. And so while this transaction that you see on here is a simple cryptocurrency transfer, you as a developer can create much more complex transactions. So let me show you an example of what I mean by that. I'm going to pull up an example on my screen. All right. So basically, we can even go back here and just look at some random transaction. Okay. So this is not a good example. Let me just pull up a different one. Okay. All right. So here you can see that multiple steps happen in this transaction. One step, step one, step two. And so you as a developer can do complex transactions. You can write smart contracts that might say, buy cryptocurrency. Step one, buy crypto. And then step two, sell crypto. All right, and you could do this all inside of a function call that you create as a developer. So how flash loans come into play is what if you wanted to buy and sell crypto that you didn't have? Well, you could change the order of this and then basically say, like, sorry, my whiteboard software has changed on me. It's getting a little finicky. Basically, you could create a new transaction that says, step one will be borrow crypto. Step two, buy crypto. Step three, sell crypto. And then step four, pay back crypto. And that's where a flash loan would come into play. So that's what I mean by you can borrow cryptocurrency as long as you pay back in the same transaction. You could borrow it. You could take those funds to buy cryptocurrency with that on exchange, sell the cryptocurrency on a different exchange, and pay it back if you see a profitable opportunity to do this. And you can do this risk-free because if the transaction fails, then you can't lose the money that you borrowed. It will simply revert. All right. And you can make a profit this way. All right. That's just one example. So a quick caveat on that, while this is zero money down, it's totally free. You can't lose the money. There, of course, is a risk here, and you have to pay the transaction fees to attempt the trade. So, if you're trying a trade that doesn't work out, then of course you could, lose out on the ether and gas fees that you would do to attempt that. So that's the caveat. But the whole idea is you don't have to have a down payment for a loan. It's free in that regard. You can't lose the money, so it's risk-free. And if your trade that you code as a smart contract developer doesn't work out, you're not on the hook for the millions of dollars that you borrow like you would be in the traditional finance world. So that's what's an absolutely game-changing feature of blockchain and smart contracts is the ability to do this kind of thing. Okay, so that's a simple example of what you might do with a flash loan and the power of it. So that example that I just talked about is what's called arbitrage. All right. Let me just open up a new tab here. So let's talk about all the things you can do with flash loans as a quick primer before we get into the coding examples here. So let's talk about what you can do. All right. So the example that I just showed was arbitrage. All right. So arbitrage is basically where you see cryptocurrency sitting on one exchange, and it has a different price on a different cryptocurrency exchange. So for example, exchange A, you might see cryptocurrency selling for $100, and then on exchange B, $101, right? So that's a price difference of $1. So it's not much to write home about, but what if you could borrow like 1,000 units of this cryptocurrency and then buy it on this exchange and then sell it on the next exchange? Well, that'd be $1,000 profit, all right? And so this type of opportunity exists in the real world already. Arbitrage with cryptocurrency exchanges, you could do this. You could buy a bunch of cryptocurrency on Binance and sell it on Coinbase. These, of course, are centralized cryptocurrency exchanges. But there's a massive problem here. If you were to try to do this, the prices could change on you but by the time you purchase the cryptocurrency on one exchange, transfer it to another exchange, and then try to sell it and take advantage of that price discrepancy. But that's the beauty of arbitrage transactions with smart contracts is you can do it instantly. You can take advantage of the state of the blockchain because it knows about both exchanges at the same time. All right, you're not going to be exposed to the price swing here. All right, if you buy on one exchange and sell the other. Now, of course, there are some other challenges with arbitrage, which I'll talk about later in the stream tonight. But that's a simple example of how arbitrage works and the beauty of being able to do that as a developer with smart contracts and flash loans. Okay. So let's look at example number 2 of what's really common to do with flash loans. So example number 2 would be liquidations. So liquidations are for loans in DeFi. So like I was saying earlier, there's lots of different DeFi applications that facilitate borrowing and lending. Typically what's happening is people are locking up cryptocurrency and selling it for, or they're taking cryptocurrency and borrowing other cryptocurrencies for trading or for other DeFi activities. I'll show you an example here. You might take an app like Compound Finance, for example, where you can supply cryptocurrency on one side and then borrow cryptocurrency on another side. This is an example of a savings and lending app in DeFi. Now, in some of these cases, you'll have these loans that essentially become delinquent, where maybe the prices change on the cryptocurrency, and their loan can now their principal they deposited for their loan is now essentially compromised. The loan is delinquent. And so these DeFi protocols are really just smart contracts, and they're open protocols. Anybody has access to them. So you can process liquidations with flash loans. Basically, if someone says, hey, we need to close out the position, you can take out a flash loan to do that. All right. So that's another example. Now, the last example we'll talk about is DeFi leverage. This is another common example. So DeFi leverage is how you can use flash loans to increase your exposure to different opportunities in DeFi with flash loans. Now, both of these examples right here typically require, you don't have to have any real money to get started. You might have to have a little bit of cryptocurrency to pay some fees in order to do both of these things. But this right here, does require some cryptocurrency to do this method, okay? But it allows you to essentially it allows you to increase the amount of money that you have exposure to for DeFi. So let me explain what I mean by that. There's lots of ways you can do this. Let's take one simple example. So go back to the Compound app that I talked about here. So Compound is a DeFi app that supports liquidity mining. So they have a cryptocurrency called the Comp token, which is a governance token for the protocol. And basically they give people comp tokens who are using the application. So if you deposited cryptocurrency like DAI, for example, into the app, of course you're going to earn a 2.72% deposit interest for doing that. And if you do that right now, because the Compound Finance liquidity mining incentive is still there, then you can earn comp tokens for just having your funds parked into the app. Okay. Now, Compound also lets you also gives you liquidity mining rewards for borrowing funds from the application as well. So what you can do with this application is you can deposit DAI, and then if you're a developer and you have access to smart contracts after the interface, you can go borrow DAI on the other side to get bonus comp tokens. And you can essentially increase your exposure because now you're depositing and you're borrowing, and they'll give you extra comp tokens as a bonus for doing that. Okay. Now, the really cool thing about flash loans is you can increase the exposure with DeFi using it as leverage and earn more comp tokens than you could as a normal user. Okay. So this gives you a bonus. This gives you a bonus advantage to earning comp tokens that normal people don't really have access to if they're using the app directly. And that's another beautiful benefit of flash loans. You can use this leverage for DeFi, all right? So these are really 3 common examples for flash loans. We're going to dig into some of these more tonight. But I think what I want to do now is go ahead and just show you the coding implementation for a basic flash loan. Just cut straight to the meat here and get our hands dirty. So I'll pause and see if we got any pressing questions in the chat yet. Somebody says, what if your sell price ends up being lower than the buy price due to exchanges during transaction time? So you really shouldn't have that issue on the actual blockchain itself. If you have, a bot that's like looking for the possibilities, there could be some latency there. The transaction will just fail, for example. But the benefit there is you'll lose the ether that you paid in the transaction fee to attempt the trade, but you will not lose out on the loan that you are borrowing. Yeah, some people were talking about that in the chat here. All right, awesome. So this is where we're at front runners. So we'll talk about front running a little bit later. So let's go ahead and jump into the coding implementation. So there's two pieces of code that I want to walk through tonight. All right, I'll kind of give you, well, really three. We'll see how much time we have, but mostly two important pieces of code. Okay. So I'll give you a quick overview of that just so you have an idea of where we're headed this evening. All right. We're going to show two examples here. Example one, basic flashloan template. All right. And then example two will be the profitable flashloan app that I'm just going to give away and show you how to set it up. Okay. So this first one is going to be all in your browser. All right, so we'll make it nice and simple. So if you're just trying to get started on the first time, you just want to see how this works and get the aha moment. We're going to make it nice and easy. But the second one will be a little more complex. We'll have to set it up on our computer, but you're going to get the completed app, and I'll show you how to customize it. And really what this is going to do is show you how to create your own applications so that you can do whatever you want to with flash loans. Okay? So before we do that, I want to mention one thing that I forgot to cover, which is essentially flash loan providers. Okay, so let's talk about that really quickly. So let's talk about flash loan providers, because earlier I talked about how essentially flash loans are typically, you can typically do them with existing DeFi applications that have liquidity pools. And I'm going to show you some notable examples. The common ones are Aave. So Aave is a money market protocol like Compound Finance. We'll look at these websites here in a minute. Uniswap has the capability as well, and also DYDX. These are some common ones. There are, of course, more. Anything that's based on Uniswap will have them, like any of the Uniswap forks will typically have that feature. But these are some of the main ones that I focus on. Okay, so we'll just take a quick tour of those. Let's see here. And then, okay. So the quick tour of the flash loan providers. Aave has them. Okay, this is the money market protocol that I was talking about. They have a complete developer documentation where you can see how to use that. You can just look up, see Aave developer docs. You can see inside of here. Look up, if you literally just Google Aave developer docs flash loans, you'll see the entire overview on how to wire up flash loans with Aave. All right, so here's the instructions. You can see they talk their liquidity pool. So DYDX is another one. Okay, so DYDX is a decentralized perpetuals exchange. Okay, and basically, some people ask me, like, can you access DYDX if you're in the U.S.? Because I believe you can't do it through their interface here. But if you have access to their smart contracts in the blockchain, you can definitely use DYDX flash loans that way. Okay, and so you can see. If you just Google let's just see here. Here's the last one. So the last one is Uniswap. Okay, so you can actually do these directly from Uniswap liquidity pools as well. So Uniswap, of course, is one of the most popular decentralized exchanges on top of the Ethereum network with automated market maker technology, and you can do flash loans through their liquidity pools as well. So I just want to cover some different flash loan providers for you all so you understand what the landscape looks like, some options on the table. And don't forget, anytime these applications get forked and moved to other blockchains like Polygon, Matic, let's see here, like Binance Smart Chain, any of the Ethereum layer 2s, any of the new ecosystems that are popping up like around Avalanche, anybody that has like Solidity smart contracts that can be ported over these EDM compatible chains and these applications move over there, then basically you're going to have flash loans on those new networks. All right. And that's going to present some new opportunities. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later tonight. Okay, so let's actually get into the coding. So if you open up the coding file down below, again, there's a zip file in the description. Wherever you're watching this on the replay, there should be accompanying resources for this. So you can download it and open it, and you're going to see a directory that looks like this. Okay, if you look at it like in your file browser, so you won't have access to this GitHub repository; it's private inside of our organization. But I'm going to use this just to browse the files in a very nice, clean way. You're going to see two. You're going to see two different folders here. One's going to be for the app that I show you later, but the first one's where the basic flash loan code is. So you want to go inside of here. All right, and some of these instructions here won't be perfect, okay, because we kind of changed the strategy a little bit for the presentation tonight. Just make sure you're going step by step with what I do on screen, but if you want to see some alternative instructions, you can definitely follow this README, but definitely use the video that I'm presenting on tonight to be the source of truth. So hop over in here and check out this file called flashloan.sol. So this is a Solidity smart contract. This is the basic flash loan template that we're going to use inside of our browser. Okay. Actually, let's see here. This may not be the one we want. So give me 1 second. So I might change my mind here. Let me just see. I think we actually want to use a different one. Hold on. I think it's this one. Yeah, I believe it's this one. Yeah. Actually, hold on a second. Hold on 1 second, everybody. I want to make sure I got the right file because there's a couple of variants in the project tonight, and I just want to make sure I've got the correct one. Okay, so yeah, I was correct the first time. So my apologies, everybody. I got a little confused here. So yeah, I was correct. So go into the top of the directory. Let's just revisit this so everybody is very clear. There's no confusion. So go back to the top of the directory. Go into the flash loan directory. Go into flashloan.sol, and this is the template file that we're going to use to form our basic flash loan first. All right, this is going to be basically the smoke test, just so that you can witness how it's done, just so that you can see how to perform a basic flash loan. It's not going to buy or sell any cryptocurrency. It's not going to do any magic. It's really just going to let you perform the basic step of borrowing the cryptocurrency and then paying it back, just so that you can witness how this works. Okay, we're going to get into implementation here in a minute, but this is the basics. Okay. Somebody's saying that they cannot open the files. So if anybody else has problem with these files, let me know. I have a feeling they said they can't. I think it probably means they can't open it in their text editor. Be my guess. Okay, so let's talk about what this basic flash loan is going to do. So tonight we're going to use DYDX as our flash loan provider. Okay, and for this basic example, all you really need is going to be an Ethereum wallet like MetaMask, and we're actually going to set something up on our computer here to make this a lot easier. So we're going to take this flash loan code and we're going to deploy it to the Ethereum network. All right. So I'll walk you through this step by step, and you'll see what you need. So to get started, head on over to remix.ethereum.org. Okay, this is going to be an in-browser blockchain in-browser Solidity IDE that we use, where you can basically create smart contracts in your browser. You can deploy them to the blockchain, and you don't have to like do anything on your local computer. We're actually going to do something on our local computer here in a second as a caveat to this, but the whole idea is this is going to make it as simple as possible to get started. So head on over to Remix and go ahead and create a new file here. So open the contracts directory, and you can just click this new file here and just create a file called flashloan.sol. All right, I've already done it. Okay, and then you can basically take the code from the GitHub repository here. I take this code, and you can click on raw. And you can just copy what's in the raw code and then paste it inside your file here. Okay. So I won't get too in depth on everything that's happening in the code right now, but the important thing is to see really quickly before we perform this is all this stuff up here is essentially the flash loan template that tells you how to do a flash loan for DYDX. All right. And then this down here is our actual smart contract that we're created as a developer. I'll show you how to customize it later, but this is really the smart contract that you're creating right here. All right. So let me tell you how to actually put this on the, let me tell you how to actually put this on the blockchain and actually how to do the flash loan. So somebody's saying that they have an issue saying the code. So let me just, I'm going to put the link to the code in here. I'm going to put it in the YouTube chat here, just in case anybody can't see it in the video description. You probably just have to refresh the page, honestly, but I'll go ahead and paste it in. So there is no GitHub link because that GitHub repository is private, but this is the zip file where you can basically download the code. So everybody, I just want to make sure they can actually see. You should be able to open the code. All right. So, anyways, let's talk about how to put this on the blockchain. So, if you wanted to put this code in the blockchain right now and perform flash loan, there's a couple different ways that you could do it. All right. So, one way would basically be to have an Ethereum wallet in here. And basically, if you want to do this right now on the Ethereum mainnet, here's how you do it. You would have an Ethereum wallet like MetaMask installed, okay? You would fund your wallet with Ether like I've done right here. And then you would just go here and compile this smart contract and deploy it straight to the network. Now, that's how you do it for real. And then you can walk through the steps I'm about to show you here in a second. and perform a flash loan and see how it's done on the mainnet. Now, for the vast majority of people, they probably don't want to pay the fee to just put this smart contract on the network just to play around with it. You're gonna just burn through money doing that. Okay. So what I'm going to show you tonight is show you how to actually do this without risking any money. Okay. So let me show you how. All right. So ways to execute flash loan. You could do it on mainnet. And if most people who want to continue on with this and actually do it for real on the mainnet, you can do the exact thing I'm about to show you with real Ether, with real cryptocurrency. Just go buy some on an exchange, fund your wallet, and go through this I'm about to show you. You can do it on a test net. So Ethereum supports multiple blockchain networks like the Ethereum mainnet, the Robston test network, the Kovan test network, the Rinkeby test network. These can be really helpful because then you can go try things out on these networks without without actually risking any money. You can get some fake Ether, okay, and then just play around with stuff. Now, there's a problem with that too, which is a lot of the smart contracts aren't always available on each test network because our code tonight has multiple dependencies. It has the flash loan provider dependency. It has the cryptocurrency that we want to borrow. Those are dependencies as well, okay? So sometimes a test network's not a great option because you don't have all the smart contracts that you need on that environment, okay? And then also sometimes it can be hard to obtain test Ether on specific cryptocurrencies depending on which one you use. And the last option here is to actually fork mainnet into a development environment. Okay, so this is actually the step that I'm gonna walk you through tonight, all right? I'm gonna show you how to do it this way by forking the mainnet and then doing the flash loan that way. So you're going to get access to everything on the Ethereum mainnet without using any real cryptocurrency to do this, just so that you can get started, okay? We're not going to do it on a test network because not all the smart contracts are on the test networks that we need, and this will allow us to act as the real blockchain without risking any real funds. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially, what we can do is download a process on our computer that will let us run a local blockchain that mimics the state of the entire Ethereum network, okay? So what we can do is basically use an app called Ganache, and we can take Ganache, excuse me, sorry everybody. We can take an app called Ganache and basically freeze the entire Ethereum network at its current state, and that's going to give us access to all the applications on top of the Ethereum network, all of the smart contracts, all of the addresses, all the balance, all the current state. We're going to have access to that, so we can do flash loans. This is a great way to practice if you want to like freeze the blockchain at specific transactions to reproduce other transactions that happened in real life. You can do that, okay? And so that's the technique that I'm going to show you how to do tonight, because this is a real pro way of testing out your applications as a developer without risking any real money. And you can verify that your code works. And this is what I always try to advise people to do if they're going to try to build real world applications with flash loans, maybe bots, whatever it is test them out with this method, because that will help you do this. Okay. So how do we do this? Well, we're going to do it with an app called Ganache. So Ganache has something called Ganache CLI, which is basically a command line interface that will let you run a blockchain on your computer, okay? And this will let you start a blockchain, and then you can point it to the Ethereum mainnet and then fork it so that you can get access to all the state. So the first thing you need is this Ganache dependency. So this will require a little bit of setup on your computer to get started. All right, we're gonna use something, so you need to open a terminal. So I have a terminal here. You'll definitely need a Node package manager installed, or NPM. You can see if you have NPM already installed on your computer by going to your terminal and typing node-v. Okay, I'm using Node version 14.16.10 for this tutorial. And so if you want to guarantee results, that's the version that I recommend using. And so inside of here, inside your project directory, or really wherever, you can install Ganache CLI like this. npm install Ganache CLI. Okay. All right, so I've already done this. I'm going to skip this step, but you want to wait for it to finish installing. And that's going to spin up the blockchain on your computer. And so also I'll mention, if you're trying to follow along with me in the live stream tonight, I might move too fast for you to perform every single step. Definitely recommend watching the replay link later if you get stuck, just so that you're not trying to catch up on everything, and you can just kind of try to absorb it the first time through and then maybe implement it the second time after you watch the replay. So now we can start our blockchain like this, so Ganache CLI. But what Ganache CLI lets you do is essentially, fork the mainnet. Let's just see here. Fork the mainnet at its current state like this, okay? So we have instructions here inside the README on how to do this. Okay. So you can see the instructions on how to install Ganache CLI right here. npm install Ganache CLI. And then you can fork the Ethereum mainnet like this. So Ganache CLI -f, and then you provide it an RPC URL, which is really just a link to an Ethereum node. All right. So how do you do that? Well, you need to have access to an Ethereum node. And the easiest way to do that is just to use a website like Infura.com. Okay, so Infura lets you get an Ethereum node as a service. You can just sign up and get a link to an Infura node so that you don't have to run one yourself. It can be a real pain in the butt to run your own Ethereum node, and also very expensive. And this just lets you, get one. You can get one for free. You can also pay for a more sophisticated Ethereum node if you really need it. But for the purposes of this tutorial tonight, you can use a free account. Just sign up, go through the setup steps, create an app, and you'll see a link to your mainnet Ethereum URL. That's the important part. You want to have a mainnet Ethereum node. So you can just take this, copy it, and I don't recommend using the API key that's in the documentation here because it'll probably exceed its rate limits. But you can just say Ganache CLI -f, which is the fork option, and then point it to the mainnet here. And boom, there you go. All right. So now you have access to multiple accounts with 100 fake Ether inside of them, okay? But you also have access to the entire mainnet Ethereum ecosystem that we can use inside of our browser. We can actually connect to it and deploy our flash loan that way so that we can actually get funds from the flash loan provider. So the next step that we want to do is actually take one of these accounts. Highly recommend that you don't use the accounts that are visible on my screen tonight, because if you try to use this and store real money in it, somebody could steal your cryptocurrency. So just don't do that. If you see any sensitive data on my screen tonight, just don't use it for real, because somebody could take it and compromise your funds. So we're gonna take an account like this and copy the private key and actually put it in our Ethereum wallet. So this is our MetaMask wallet here. You can just go to your account here, and then you can actually go to import account. So let me just show you the steps here. You can do this, go import account, and then paste in the private key, click import, and there you go. So I'm on the Ethereum mainnet right now, and you won't see a balance in it, okay? What you can do is actually go set up a custom network. Let's go to custom RPC, and you can say Ganache CLI, and then you can put in the RPC URL, which is localhost 8545 or 127.0.0.8545. All right, and say HTTP. Okay, chain ID. You can look at the settings in Ganache. You can see the chain ID is, it's actually 1 because it's a forked chain. Oops. Okay, and then basically, well, actually Ganache's, the chain ID is going to be different. I believe it's 13. It's this one, 1337. Okay. And the current symbol is ETH, and the block explorer is Etherscan. You don't have to do it though. All right, so I already have these settings, so I'm going to click cancel. It won't let me add another network with the same settings. So I'm click cancel, but you'll click save. All right, and then you can go over here and change to Ganache CLI. All right, and now you'll see your balance here. So now you can see you have 100 Ether in your account. All right, and so now let's actually compile the smart contract, put it on the network, and do a flash loan. So you'll go to the Solidity compiler here, click this. We'll have to downgrade the Solidity version for the sake of the demo tonight. It's okay, it's not a big deal. The Solidity version changes so fast. All these versions that are past 0.5 are gonna work just fine, but you need to specify 0.5.16 for the Solidity compiler. So really what this is doing is just taking human readable code. This is, code that we humans can read and turning it into code that machines can read. And so that's called compilation. And we click compile. All right. So actually, let's just make sure you actually want to, okay, yeah. So compile flashloan, it's compiled. And then you want to click on this, which is deploy and run transaction. If you don't see this step here, go down to the plugins and search for, deploy or compile. If you don't see any of those things, you'll see the plugin manager. You can search for them and then add them. Okay. But let's go ahead and deploy. So what we're going to do is change to our injected Web3 provider. Okay. And this is going to actually read our account here from MetaMask. We need to make sure it's connected. Click connect. And you can see your account balance here. And so it thinks it's on the mainnet, but it's actually on the Ganache hard fork here. So you can go inside your MetaMask, just make sure that you're on the your Ganache connection here, not actually the mainnet, in case you don't want to lose any money. But if you're using the imported account from Ganache, you shouldn't have any risk of that in the first place. So anyways, let's go ahead and deploy. You want to go down and select flash loan, all right? Because that's the name of the contract we actually want to deploy. And click deploy. Actually, one more step. So there's one more step before we do this, and let me explain it. Okay. So when we're taking out flash loans on DYDX, okay, we do have to pay a really small fee in order to take out this flash loan. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow Ether. Okay, so there's multiple different cryptocurrencies that you can borrow from DYDX. Okay, so so here's DYDX here. This is our flash loan provider. We're going to borrow Ether. All right, and so whenever we borrow funds from DYDX and from Ether, we're actually going to borrow something called wrapped Ether. So what does that mean? Well, this is the ERC20 token version of Ether. So Ether is the native cryptocurrency of the Ethereum blockchain, but but there's a problem with Ether. You can't really use it for like flash loans because it doesn't have really specific functions that other cryptocurrencies on top of Ethereum do. So really Ethereum has two different types of cryptocurrencies. Essentially has Ether, which is in its own category because it's the native cryptocurrency of Ethereum blockchain. And then it has everything else, which are Ethereum-based tokens, which conform to the ERC20 standard. The beauty of the ERC20 standard is it has special functions like approve, transfer, all that type of stuff. It's way more programmable than Ether is natively. So if you want to borrow Ether, you have to borrow the wrapped version of Ether, which is WETH, okay? And so you can see inside of our code here, let's just kill this. See if inside of our code that whenever we create the smart contract, we call this constructor function here, and we're basically taking some Ether and we're taking some Ether from the transaction where we create the contract and we're wrapping it to WETH. You can actually see the WETH contract called here that wraps our Ether into WETH, okay? So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is you do have to pay a really, really, really small fee in order to take out a flash loan on DYDX, but it's a negligible fee, really. It's basically free, but you have to pay a small fee in order to do it. So in terms of this, anytime you want to borrow Ether, for example, you have to pay, let's just say you want to borrow 1 Ether, right? Which right now is, or any amount of Ether, whether it's 1 Ether, 100 Ether, 1,000 Ether, whatever it is, you have to pay a small fee that's equivalent to this, 0.0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 Ether. That's the fee that you pay. It's so small. It's like a fraction of it's a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of a penny in terms of US dollar. It's basically free, but you have to pay this fee to DYDX in order to do it. All right. So if you're a developer already, you might notice that this is called Way. All right. This is 1 Way. This is the smallest unit of Ether. It's Ether divided by 18 decimal places. That's how Ether works. So if you think about US dollars in terms of like pennies, like a penny is the smallest you can divide a US dollar. So 1.00, there's 2 zeros after the decimal place, and 1 penny is 0.001. Well, or sorry, 0.001. Well, this is the smallest denomination of Ether. It's 1 Way, so it's 17 zeros and then 1 after this. So 18 zeros after the decimal place. So we deal with Way a lot when you're talking about cryptocurrency prices for blockchain development with Ether. Okay, and that's the fee that we pay. So that being said, we have to send some Ether to the smart contract whenever we deploy it to the network. All right. So the reason I kind of went on that tangent is it's actually an essential part of explaining this next step, which is we need to send some Ether in whenever we create the smart contract. And so we use this value field here because every transaction on top of the Ethereum network has a value field. And whenever you create transactions, you can always specify some amount of value, which is some amount of Ether to be sent here. And you can see that it has this denomination here. It has Ether, it has Gwei, it has Way. All right, so Way is the smallest unit of Ether, which I'm showing you here. So basically, we're gonna send in, let's say 10 Way for example purposes. That means it's a tiny, minuscule fraction of a dollar, just to pay some fees. And so if we send in 10 Way, that will allow us to take out 10 flash loans. If you want to take out 100 flash loans, you can send it 100 Way, all that type of stuff. Okay, so we're just gonna do 10 Way for now as an example. But that's an essential part of this step so you can pay the fees. And whenever we, do the flash loan, whenever we put it on the network, it's going to wrap it into WETH, okay? And then our smart contract's actually going to have WETH, and we can actually call the flash loan function to take out the loan itself, okay? So let's go ahead and deploy. You can specify whatever gas price you want to. I'll say 200, or just say 20 now. Yeah, 200, easy, fine. I confirm. All right. And then boom, there you go. It was created. So the nice thing about Ganache is that your transactions will be basically instant. All right, that's another nice thing about developing them this way. If you're on the actual Ethereum network, you probably have to wait a little while for this transaction to finish. But now it's done instantly. You can see the transaction hash for the contract, and you can actually see that a contract was created. Here's the contract address. Here's the gas used. Here's the block number. Here's the timestamp for the block. Okay. So again, this is not on the real Ethereum network. This is on your just local copy of the Ethereum network that you have forked. All right. You can see it in the transaction history here. So if you were going to do this on the main Ethereum network, it'd be the exact same steps. You'd have to have some ETH in there. And yeah, you have to have the ETH that in your wallet. Somebody asked me in the chat, do you have to have the amount that you're borrowing in your wallet? No, you don't have to have the amount that you're borrowing. You just have to have the amount that's going to take to put the contract on the network, to call the smart contract functions, and then also, to pay these fees to transfer in that value. So what editor am I using? So this editor right here is Remix. So remix.ethereum.org is the IDE that I'm using. All right, so let's go ahead and take out the flash loan. So if you click this drop down here, this will show you the different functions on the smart contract. And you can see this function right here is the key. So get flash loan. This is how we're actually going to call it. So it takes a few different parameters. You can drop this down here. You can see the flash token. Okay. So we're going to use WETH, like I was saying before. We're actually going to borrow, $1 million of Ether here, over $1 million. And you can see it right here. We use WETH because we have to use the wrapped version. So we need the smart contract address for WETH. So you have to tell it the different token that you want to borrow with flash loans. So DYDX only lets you borrow a handful of tokens. WETH is one of the supported tokens for this particular template. We have a nice little helper here that'll show you the WETH address, okay? So you can just click on WETH, the blue button, that's a read-only function, and you can copy the smart contract address and then put it into the flash loan field here. So I'm gonna do that. I'll screen really quickly because it has this weird bug. All right, so put that inside of here, all right? And so the next thing we want to do is tell it how much cryptocurrency that we want to borrow. So let's borrow over $1 million of cryptocurrency just for this example, okay? So let's look at the current Ether price. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we want to borrow $1 million, that would be 320 Ether right now. So there's a 1-to-1 ratio of ETH to wrapped Ether. So we could borrow, let's just borrow more so we confidently know we're borrowing over $1 million. So let's borrow like 350 Ether. So how you want to do that is type in 350. All right, that's the Ether amount. But like I was saying before with Wei, you have to express this in the Wei value, all right? Because when you're dealing with the smart contract level, the blockchain never deals with decimal places and Solidity never deals with decimal places. So if you want to tell it how much Ether you want to borrow, you have to express it in this Wei value that I was talking about before. So you have to take whatever Ether amount that you're doing and then convert it to Wei. So you have to add 18 zeros after your number to express it in Wei. So 350 followed by 18 decimal places. You can just type it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then click transact, all right? And you'll see your transaction confirmation pop up here. Let's just change the gas limit. Confirm. Click sign with MetaMask. This will be the exact same steps. You're gonna do this on mainnet. We're just doing it on our forked ganache. And then boom, there you go. Here's the transaction. You can see the transaction hash. You can see where it's from. You can see that it was to get the flash loan. Here's the gas. Here's the transaction event. Here's the decoded log data. Or you can see the flash token, see the flash amount, and then everything that happened in the logs. So there is something a little bit anticlimactic around this particular example with Ganache CLI, and I'll tell you why. Because basically you're not able to visualize the transaction you did here on Etherscan because Etherscan is not really indexing it, okay? Etherscan is just going to show you what's actually happening on top of the Ethereum network, and we just did this in a sandboxed version of our own blockchain environment. Now, that being said, if you're going to do this on the mainnet, or you decided to change the smart contract settings to do it on a test network, you could see a successful transaction that would look something like this. Okay, I'm just going to pull up a previous example so you can see what would look like in here. Okay, so this was a flash loan that was actually taken out from DYDX. This is the simple example that we just did live on the Ethereum mainnet, where we just literally borrowed 4,000 Ether, which is $12 million, okay, and then paid it back. So this is just some example to show you how you can just borrow an insane amount of money and pay it back instantly. All right, so this is really just setting it up and showing you how to do the basic flash loan itself. It doesn't do any trades, it doesn't do anything advanced beyond that, but that's just the smoke test. Is can you do this initial step? Can you get it working? Can you do a basic flash loan before you go on to create your own application, all right? And so if you were to perform this on the mainnet, this is what it would look like, okay? You can see it's got multiple steps in the transaction here, like I was talking about before. Blockchain supports complex transactions. It can support simple transactions. If it was just sending cryptocurrency from one account to yours, it would show, one step inside the transaction, but now this has multiple steps. Take out the flash loan, pay the flash loan back. And what you want to do as developer is create your own applications that actually add the other steps inside of here, which is take out the flash loan, and then sandwiched inside of here, you can do an arbitrage, you can use leverage, you can do liquidations, all that type of stuff. Okay. But here is actually where you do it in the code. So I'll talk you through that here in a second, but let's just pause and just make sure everybody's caught up in the chat here. Okay. Somebody says they're lost. They want to see the setup steps. So I recommend for sure, if some of this, if you need to watch the replay to catch the actual step-by-step process, that's the best way to do it. That's how people have been really successful with these classes in the past. I definitely suggest kind of getting an introduction to the concepts today. You're going to get a lot of benefit from the replay. So somebody says, why Ethereum? Other places with cheaper fees. Yeah, we're going to go over that for sure here momentarily. Because the beauty is if you do it on Ethereum, there's lots of other places where you can actually take out flash loans as well. So somebody says doing it on the other networks basically the same. Yes, it's basically the same. You have to adapt it for those flash loan providers, do it on those networks. But this is the basic step with these developer tools that'll get you started. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually customize this, okay? Because here's the template. This is where you can do the, someone says the view is blurry on the screen. Yeah, the replay link should be crystal clear. Okay, so here's the basic implementation. When you're going to actually customize as a developer, here's where you basically add the magic. So if you look at the code, let's just do a simple explanation. So here's the contract. Don't worry about everything above this file. Basically, this is the contract that inherits from it. It inherits from the DYDX flash loan, which we've completely, wired up here. Okay. We have our own smart contract called flash loan. It has the constructor function. This is the function that gets called whenever the smart contract is deployed to the network. This is what takes the ETH that you sent in with the transaction and turns it into WETH. Okay. You don't have to modify this. In terms of get flash loan, you don't have to modify this either. What you want to modify is this function down here. So this call function is a function that you must have inside your smart contract in order to be compatible with DYDX. Basically what happens is you take out the flash loan and then you have this call function that implements, it implements the logic that you create as a developer. So once you have the loan back from the flash from DYDX, it gives you these variables inside your app, or it has the address of the token that you borrowed, the amount of money that you borrowed, and the balance of your tokens before, okay? And then you have the loan amount, okay? So the loan is now the money that you have that you can do whatever you want to do. And so you see this comment here. This is where you can say, use the money here. So this is where you can implement your instructions to, interact with a different DeFi application. You can interact with the cryptocurrency exchange. You can do whatever. So when you're implementing those next steps, like I talked about inside these complex transactions, okay, like I just lost the transaction on my screen here. Anyways, those multiple steps, that's where you do it. And I know some of that's might be a little high level and abstract, but I'm going to show you an application here that actually implements this and plugs into other applications and actually does this so that you can get an idea on how to create these as a developer. So how long will the replay link available? You'll have it for life. Somebody says I'm new to crypto and know nothing about coding. However, you're saying not to use the private keys and ganache. So which private keys should you use? You can use the private keys and ganache for these testing purposes, but don't use the private keys and ganache that I showed on my screen here, or your private keys and ganache to store real funds if you're doing this for real with real cryptocurrency. I would just create a new MetaMask wallet or something like that and actually fund your account with Ether that you purchase yourself, and then go through the same steps if you're going to do it on the mainnet. Okay. All right, so let's talk about how to go beyond the basics here and not just do a simple, smoke test flash loan transaction where you just borrow the money and pay it back. Let's actually look at an application that can make money with flash loans. Okay. So which languages should you learn? Solidity, JavaScript, Node.js, Web3. I recommend all the above. All right, so let's get into the next part about how to do this profitably. Okay. So if you're gonna let's go back to the strategy I talked about before. So you can do flash loans to do arbitrage trading on different cryptocurrency exchanges. It's where you buy on one cryptocurrency exchange, sell another. You can do them with liquidations where you are paying back delinquent loans. All right. You can also do it where you're using it for leverage and DeFi. Okay. So let's talk about the different strategies. So the cool thing about flash loans is that the opportunities have expanded to multiple blockchains. We'll talk about this more later. Someone was asking me a second ago, like, hey, if I do this, why can't I do it with cheaper fees on Polygon, on Binance Smart Chain, all this stuff. So the cool thing is if you have Solidity smart contracts, you can do this on other blockchains as well. You'll have to repurpose it. You'll have to find the flash loan providers on those chains, okay, and implement the same types of things that are showing you here. But you can create your own custom strategies, and we'll talk about that in the strategies here in a minute. But let's talk about a flash loan example that I can show you. So I'm going to show you how to do an actual implementation of this, how to wire this up and to use this for leverage with DeFi, because this is a really awesome way to demonstrate this, because you can do it. And it's a coding example that I can put in front of you right now that everybody can follow. And it's not zero sum in the sense of like an arbitrage trade would, because with arbitrage trading, basically, we have an arbitrage bot inside the blockchain mastery program. So if you want to check that out, definitely go check that out. We'll probably do another trading bot masterclass here pretty soon. But with arbitrage trading, we're talking about the trade-offs here in a minute. But if I were to put literally a step-by-step instruction on do arbitrage trades, right now, everybody who would be doing it would be competing for the exact same opportunity. So instead, what I'm going to try to show you how to do is actually take a flash loan and use it for leverage on DeFi, because it's not zero sum, and we can guarantee that everybody can do it, and it can be a profitable application. Okay. Now that being said, there will be some risks involved with this because if you're putting in your own funds with leverage DeFi trading, then those funds could be at risk of liquidation. But what I'm going to show you how to do right now with this Ganache CLI instance is we can do it just like I did the flash loan a minute ago, where you don't have the risk of losing any money. We can do it with test money, but you can actually witness the fact that it is being profitable right now by using the flash loan. And then you're going to see actually how to take the flash loan component and plug it into your own smart contract and implement a custom strategy so you can customize it and take out those complex steps for the flash loan itself. Okay. Somebody says could be done in Python as well. So you need to do the smart contracts in Solidity. Somebody says I can't stop wondering the downside or the potholes here. It seems like it's too easy. Nothing is easy and free. So yeah, we'll talk about the strategies and the trade-offs here towards the end for sure. So the actual flash loan implementation I'm going to share tonight is in the coding repository. Okay. Now this is going to involve doing something on your computer. All right. So this is going to be a little more advanced than doing everything in your browser. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get good at flash loans and actually use them inside your own applications, you're going to have to install some things in the computer, get your hands dirty with the programming languages. You probably have to get some proficiency with the programming languages themselves. That's exactly what the blockchain bootcamp is for. That's exactly what the blockchain mastery program is for, is getting those skills and refining those so that you can get good and perform those strategies, okay? But if you go inside the folder here, and then you go into this flash loan leveraged yield farm, this is where we'll have the coding implementation for an app that's actually able to generate profit right now with flash loans, because it's not a zero-sum thing like certain arbitrage situations would be. We're not all competing with one another to use this. Everyone could theoretically run this app and instantly be profitable. Okay, so go ahead and download that. Open it up on your terminal here. You definitely want to do a install your dependencies. All right. First dependency you want to have installed is Truffle. So Truffle is a smart contract development framework. That's what we're going to use to customize the smart contracts here. You can see Truffle version. All right, so I've got Truffle version 5.4.2. If you don't have Truffle already installed, you can install it just like this right here. So npm install -g Truffle. All right, you want to wait for that to finish. I've already got it installed, of course, so I'm going to skip this step, but you definitely need to have this step done if you're going to do it. All right, we already have Ganache CLI installed. We have it running, so we can skip that step for now. But the next thing we want to do is actually, install the dependencies. We're going to do it with Yarn. So Yarn's a little bit different from npm. You can see if you have Yarn installed with Yarn version. All right, I've got Yarn version 1.22.4. But if you don't have Yarn installed, you can just do npm install -- global yarn. All right, and that will install Yarn for you. So now let's go inside the project and actually install the dependencies. We'll do Yarn install. Okay, and this will install all the packages for the project. I've already done this step, so mine finished quite quickly. Yours will likely take a little bit. All right. So now let's go ahead and open this project in our text editor here. All right. So inside of here, you can go to the source contracts directory, and you'll see this leveraged yield farm. Okay. And what you'll see here is a quite sophisticated smart contract that actually implements this flash loan template that we used earlier, this DYDX flash loan template, okay, that we did in our browser. And we actually implement a smart contract that does leveraged yield farming and actually implements this flash loan like you saw earlier. So it looks like the function that we saw in our browser before, but we actually added more code here, and then basically added this call function here. And this lets us essentially do leverage yield farming. Okay, so we'll go over this code here in a minute, talk about how it works and what it does. Let's look at a couple other places in our project just to make sure it's wired up properly. You can go to this truffle.js file. This is what configures the Truffle project to connect to our blockchain. All right. So let's talk about what this app's going to do. So earlier, I was talking about compound finance. Let me just pull it up on the screen here. And I talked about leverage yield farming as a way to make money with flash loans, where basically you can do it and it's guaranteed that it'll make you money. That you're not it's not a competitive situation like arbitrage. We're going to talk about arbitrage here in a minute. But this is a way that you can, this shows you how everything fits together if you're going to use a flash loan for real in production. that can instantly make money. So what does it do? So earlier I talked about compound finance. It's a money market protocol that lets you deposit cryptocurrency into one side and then borrow cryptocurrency on the other side. And so when you do this, you can deposit DAI. All right. For example, this is a stable cryptocurrency whose price doesn't change. You'll get a 2.75% interest for depositing DAI. Whenever you do this, Compound is also going to give you some bonus cryptocurrency here. All right. And what it's going to do is going to give you comp tokens, which is the cryptocurrency distributed by the comp protocol. And so your APY on this is going to be a lot higher. It's higher than 2.72%. All right. So you as a normal user, you can go to the Compound Finance website and just deposit DAI in here and earn compound tokens. All right. Now, as a developer, because you have access to the smart contracts themselves, not just the website, you could simultaneously go borrow DAI on the other side here and then earn comp tokens for depositing, and then you would also earn comp tokens for borrowing. So you'd be earning bonus comp tokens, all right? And you can't do that through the interface. It's not like Compound doesn't want you to do it. I mean, they know people are doing it. What's going to happen is your interest rates are basically going to cancel each other out because you're borrowing it, you're depositing at 2.75, but you're borrowing about 75% or 70% of your principal here, and this borrow APY on 75% is still less than 2.72% of depositing DAI. Okay, so let me just kind of sketch that out on the screen here so you can see it. So it's going to look like this. Sorry, my whiteboard software has changed. I keep saying that, but it's kind of weird. So it's like a compound. So basically, you're going to have DAI. Let's just use 100 DAI, for example. So you could do this with $100, or you could do it with $10, $1. It doesn't matter if you're going to use your own real cryptocurrency. I'm going to show you how to do it with fake cryptocurrency. But let's just say you want to do this for real in the real world, and you wanted to practice with 100 real dollars just to see that it works. So you have $100 in DAI. Okay, and you deposit that into Compound, and you earn some interest on that. Now, what you can do is Compound has something called a 0.75 collateralization factor, which basically means you can take out a loan up to 75% of the value of whatever you deposited. All right, so we can turn around and borrow 75 DAI. All right. So whenever you do this, Compound's going to give you comp tokens for depositing. All right, and then it's going to give you comp tokens also for borrowing. Okay, so you're going to get comp tokens for both of these. So whenever you're depositing, you're going to get a small percentage in interest, and you're going to get you're going to be paying some interest here, and those interests are essentially going to cancel each other out. Okay, but the real APY that you're getting here is by getting bonus comp tokens. Now, whenever you enter flash loans into the equation, what you can do is essentially increase your exposure here. So essentially what you can do is, because this collateralization factor is 0.75, you can divide 100 DAI, divide by 0.75, and you can take out a flash loan for like 133 DAI. Okay, and then add those two things together, and now you have 233 DAI in the comp protocol, all right, as step one of the transaction. And then you can go around and then take this 133 DAI from the flash loan that you borrowed and then pay it back. And then now you have 233 DAI sitting in Compound earning these extra bonus comp tokens, all right? And that's going to be more than if you were able to only deposit 100 DAI into the application as a normal user. You can basically 3x your rewards here. And I think the math's actually a little bit wrong here. But that's the whole idea. You can take out this loan and create leverage. So you can have all this extra exposure to this DeFi application to get these bonus comp tokens that normal people can't do through the application interface. All right, so let's look at how to actually implement this. So that's the idea of what this is doing. So let's look at how the code actually does this. Let me show you an example. So like the last thing I'll say here is because if you're going to do this for real with your own money, you should know that you should never do this with money that you cannot afford to lose in case something goes wrong. Okay. So, you don't want to go here and just like put your life savings in this and use the leverage because something could always go wrong with your smart contract. Like if you made an error, sending money around, that could be bad. You also have liquidation risk here. Basically, if something happens with the peg of DAI or the interest rates on compound fluctuate or something like that, you could run into some liquidation issues here. So this does actually have some risk involved for the actual funds themselves. So some people were talking about, what's the catch? So if you're doing leverage on DeFi, that is a potential catch here. I'll talk about some other, potential drawbacks for other strategies later. But that's really what's happening. So let's look at the coding implementation. We can actually run it. Well, before we explain the code, let's just show you how it works, or show an example. So again, we're going to do this with the Ganache fork tonight. But if you were to do this on the mainnet, this is what the transaction would look like. Okay. So in this situation, this flash loan, this basically was taking a flash loan out for 2.33 DAI, right, from DYDX, and then combining that with our 1 DAI. So this is just like the math I showed you before. So this was 100 DAI, taking out a flash loan to 233 DAI, combining it together, all right, and then supplying that to the compound protocol right here. So now we have 3.3 DAI in the compound protocol, and then doing that borrow back from compound and then paying back the flash loan. And now you have all this money sitting in the compound application, earning bonus rewards, and you can sit there and let it run as long as you want to. So this is a successful deposit. And then if you want to see how to get your money out, this is the first side, is you take out the flash loan to put the money into compound finance, but then he has another function which lets you withdraw the money whenever you want to claim your rewards. And that's what happens on the second part of the application, which is the withdrawal function, which is this right here. Okay, so basically you borrow money back from compound finance, you pay back the loan on compound, okay, and then you withdraw your funds and then you pay back the loan back to DYDX, the flash loan that you took out, right? That's how you get your money back and that's how you claim your rewards. So this is an example of how that takes place, okay? So I'll show you how to run the app locally on our computer here. So once you're inside your application, you can see in the instructions here, you just run this command. So truffle test is going to show you how to actually call the functions and see how this app runs. All right. Let's see here. Hold on a second. Let's restart Ganache here. Oh, I think I know what it is. Hold on. It's a truffle test. Okay. All right. So it's working. And boom, there we go. Awesome, it worked. So you can actually see, we're going to go through the test results here. You can see here inside the truffle file, you go to source, or so go to test, and you can see this YF1, okay? So this is the yield farming test. So this is what it actually does. You can see it takes your ether and swaps it for DAI so you can run the application. But then what it does is it actually calls the function on this application here, which is the deposit to compound finance. So it's got two steps: the deposit step and then the withdrawal step. Okay, so the deposit step does this, and then it waits. All right, so it waits some time inside the actual test on the blockchain itself for it to accrue some interest. Okay, and then after you wait that certain amount of time, you'll accrue that interest, and then the test simulates that, and then it does the withdrawal, which is this next step here. Okay, so it does the deposit step, and then it does the withdrawal. You can see that inside the contract, source contracts. Let's see, flash loan, leverage yield farm. Here's the deposit step. All right, which is the first step. It puts the money into compound finance. And then here's the withdrawal step, which takes your money and withdraws it from compound finance. So essentially you call this function once, put the money in there, it waits a little while, and then whenever you've accrued the interest, you take this withdrawal, it takes your money out of compound finance, it pays back the flash loan, and then it withdraws the DAI back into your account. And at the end of the day, we always have a special withdrawal token in case you get any tokens stuck inside the application, then you can safely withdraw your funds this way. Okay. And so you can see inside the deposit DAI function, it takes out a flash loan. You can see the flash loan function is common. It's shared here. So if you want to plug in flash loans to other applications, that's how you do it. Basically, you import other smart contracts like compound finance into your application. You can see, this here, how we've basically taken in the compound, piece here. We've taken all the addresses for the smart contracts on the mainnet from Compound Finance. We've actually programmed the ability to deposit into Compound Finance in this step for deposit DAI. Okay, so we've done the handle deposit step here. That's how you do it in Compound Finance. You approve your DAI first. You mint C DAI, which is Compound's version of DAI. You borrow the DAI. Okay, so you do the mint, you do the borrow, you do the flash loan with all that data here, or all those funds. And then once you've sat in the project for a while and you want to actually claim your rewards, you do the handle withdrawal, which does the exact opposite. It interacts with Compound Finance. It borrows the balance. It shows you your balance that you have inside the app. It approves your DAI. It repays the loan amount. It allows you to get your balance and then redeem your balance, and then it pays it back to you, the user. So you can see that in the test here. Basically, you can see the state of your ETH balance. So you had 99, this much Ether before. You can see your ETH balance after. All right, so you just paid some transaction fees. You can see the DAI balance before was 3,087. All right, the DAI balance after, all right, actually went up because you got some interest there, and then the C DAI balance before, and then the comp balance after. Okay. So this is the real secret here. This is how much comp you earned in 10 seconds. And comp rewards are paid out by block. So you could essentially take your test and simulate it for a much longer duration. You could go inside your test here and turn this number up to like a bazillion seconds or something like that if you want to wait. Let's find the wait function here. You could change this to like, you can convert to seconds, you can convert to days, you can change it to a bazillion seconds. but you're actually going to have to wait a certain amount of time to actually observe that behavior inside the actual application itself. So I got this. Got a couple more items of discussion here. There's a couple good questions in the chat that I want to cover. Somebody says thought flash loans had to be repaid immediately. So that's a good question. They do have to be repaid immediately. But what you're seeing here is 2 steps in the application. Step 1 is deposit, all right, which is this side of things, all right, this function right here. And then what you're doing is you're depositing, you're creating a transaction that actually takes out a flash loan, increases your exposure in a compound, and then pays the flash loan back in that same transaction. That's step 1. It takes out a flash loan, deposits into compound with your money, okay, and then borrows back from compound the flash loan amount and then pays it back. That's step 1. That's all one transaction. Flash loan taken out, pay back in the deposit step. Step 2 is withdrawing your funds from compound. It takes out the flash loan, pays back all your loan, okay, and then to compound, and then takes the compound flash loan and pays it back to DYDX, the flash loan provider, and then all your funds are back in your wallet. That's a good question. Somebody says, can I increase wait seconds to gain more comp? Yes, you definitely can, but you'll actually have to wait. So how long do you have to leave it on compound finance? You can leave it as long as you want to. Somebody's talking about collaboration to ask questions. So that's one of the beauties of the blockchain mastery program is we have a community chat inside there that where you can go in and ask questions, collaborate with others, and ask for help, all that type of stuff. Okay, so let's talk about some other flash loan opportunities, how you can customize this. So basically, I wanted to show you an application that everybody could use now to make money if they want to. It's not zero sum. Let's talk about sort of arbitrage trading and some other opportunities that pop with the flash loans. One reason I want to reboot this class tonight and talk about this is, with arbitrage trading, let's think about that example of like buying cryptocurrency on one exchange and selling it on another. So there are a few things about that particular opportunity. I think I talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again. So the arbitrage space is a competitive one. And so there's 2 different ways to be competitive with arbitrage trading. So way number 1 is essentially to be the best at whatever strategy you're doing. So if you're doing arbitrages between, really popular cryptocurrency exchanges that a lot of people use, lots of liquidity with really common cryptocurrency pairs, then you have to be the best person at doing that. You have to do, you basically have to be the fastest, the most sophisticated. You're going to be likely, competing with front running, all that type of stuff. And so that's not the strategy that I typically personally do. Okay. So, another way of doing this is basically coming up with your own strategies and seeking out other opportunities that other people aren't doing. And that's one of the beauties of what's happening right now with these different ecosystems is basically there's all these new chains popping up that are, have the applications that are getting forked and expanded these other chains. Maybe they're unofficial forks that are popping up, things where you can do flash loans with cheaper transaction fees, all that type of stuff. And so that's one of the reasons that this is starting to become hot again, is for those types of opportunities. Now, that being said, if you want to be competitive in that, like I said, the strategy that I typically advise is to come up kind of with your own strategies. And when you find something that works, you try to be one of the first people that's doing that, just doing something that nobody else is doing. Okay. And so if you're going to do that, then you have to have the skills basically to craft your own strategies. Okay. And that's exactly why I want to show you the implementation of the basic flash loan, the template, just to show you how it works, then show you an actual application with all the pieces put together to see how you plug flash loans into other smart contracts so that you can see a working implementation of that you can just run and get that feedback. So then once you have those skills, you can take these templates and hook in a new flash loan provider if you want to. That's maybe supported on a different blockchain. Or you can write your own custom functions inside of your to implement your own custom strategies. Okay, the goal to be competitive is to actually learn skills to craft your own strategies. Because in the day, if I gave you a copy and paste template for a particular arbitrage strategy, then everyone watching this video is just going to run the exact same strategy, and then you're competing with one another. That's the whole problem I talked about a minute ago, is the competitiveness of going after the exact same opportunities. Okay. So that being said, we do have a trading bot implementation inside the blockchain mastery program. There's if you want to get access to that, you can go see that. You can see how you can create an app that actually watches for opportunities and then fills them. So that bot does work, especially when you're talking about looking for different cryptocurrency pairs. But again, you go back to the same problem of if you have a solution, you're going to be competing with other students who are probably even looking at the same pairs that you are. Okay. But the opportunities are still there, but you have to have the foundational skills in order to create those strategies. And that's exactly what you have examples of here right now. So let's just see a couple other things here. Okay, so another thing to think about with flash loans, and somebody asked me earlier, it's like, what's the catch? What's the downside risk? So I'll talk about the risks and what the downsides are, sort of the gotchas, the fine print, so to speak. So we already talked about it with, flash loans in terms of arbitrage trading. It's a competitive space. If you're trying to do the same thing everybody else is, then you're competing with those people. So how do you combat that? Well, you try to find new opportunities. You have to have the skills to craft your own strategies, all that type of stuff. Okay, that's the fine print on that. Full disclosure there. If you're talking about the leveraged yield farming that I was talking about earlier, I disclosed this, but want to repeat it. If you're doing flash loans with that, you are using your own money additionally to do that. You're just using flash loans to increase your exposure. So your funds that you're using there could be at risk. Okay, so you don't want to put your life savings in there. You don't want to put any money in that you can't afford to lose in case something goes wrong. Okay. There's liquidation risk when you're talking about using DeFi protocols like that. Let's say the interest rates on compound just wildly fluctuate. There's a risk there. That's a potential downside risk. Another thing with flash loan transactions is essentially, let's say you're doing any flash loan transaction, the fees can get expensive. Okay, so if you're just testing around smart contracts, paying the gas fees to put the contracts on the network, that's a downside risk. Also, talking about borrowing money for free with zero money down, risk free. Of course, it's crazy. There's no risk that you can lose the money that you're borrowing. I did mention this earlier, but I'll bring it up again, which is basically if you're attempting trades and the trades are failed, then you lose out on the gas fees that you pay whenever you're executing those trades. And that can be quite expensive on the Ethereum network. But again, like I was saying before, on some of these other chains, those fees are lower, so there's less risk if you're attempting trades. And also, you're probably going to find situations where you're going to find new opportunities that are popping up on those chains as well. So somebody says, can you show how the comp tokens appear in your wallet on the fork developer mainnet? So unfortunately, if you're talking about MetaMask doesn't have a way for you to actually see your assets with your tokens. Like if you want to go add the comp token here, MetaMask isn't really smart enough to pick up the forked account balances, unfortunately. But you can actually go into just your developer tools and see the comp balance with Web3. You can see the example of that inside the application here. You can just see like balance of, comp methods, balance of, your account, and then just check the balance. We've logged the console here. So somebody's asked me about the simple ARP example. Let me just pull it up. So another thing that you can do is actually, if you're looking for other creative strategies, is reverse engineer what other people are doing. So I put a video about this on my YouTube channel recently, and there's actually a detailed video in the Blockchain Mastery Program how you can automate this process with the code. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. But let me just pull up. If you want to go check out the video that I put out here. It's this one, which is flash loan profit strategy. Okay, so this one, what it does is it shows you how you can get ideas of what other people are doing with flash loans. So how do you reverse engineer this process? You kind of play it like a detective. So you can go in and basically go to any flash loan provider like Aave, for example, or DYDX, whatever it is, and then go find on Etherscan and actually go look at their transactions and just see when people are taking flash loans out, like what are they doing? Okay. So, for example, let's just see here. So if you look up the Aave lending pool, this is you can Etherscan, just like Google Aave lending pool. Okay. Aave lending pool, Etherscan version 2. Click on it. You can look at the transactions and you can see recent transaction. You can see the basic borrow deposits, but then you can also see, flash loan examples. Okay. And so you can actually reverse engineer what these people are doing. You can see this is taking out, USDT, 39,000, and then paying back 39,000 here, and you can see the difference when they're swapping. All right, so you can do this. You can go through. You can check on all the different examples of flash loans to get some ideas and create your own strategies. Hint, hint. You can do this for all the different blockchains where the flash loan providers have been forked and then put over there to try to get some ideas on what's working. You could probably discover new providers this way. You can look at other accounts of people who have used these addresses. You might find new flash loan providers. You might find new tokens. You might find new pairs. You might find new cryptocurrency exchanges. That's the way to do it. Is teaching is the best way I can tell you is to go learn how to create your own strategies and then show you the exact same things. If I show you the exact same thing, every person who's watched this video is going to do that exact same thing, and then you go back to that problem I talked about before, which is that opportunity, in particular, concrete opportunity, kind of disappears. So let's go back to the simple ARB example, and then we'll go through some more questions. So the Kyber, Uniswap arbitrage that we talked about before, there is an implementation of that inside the blockchain mastery program, so you have to check that out. But this here is inside the code for the repository that would show you kind of what a simple ARB looks like. This doesn't have a flash loan provided to it, provider hooked up to it, but essentially what you would be doing is, this is kind of a pseudocode example. You have to import the interface to the exchanges. Somebody talked about this a second ago. I just saw the, let's just see the chat here. I saw the chat here. Somebody's talking about, suppose for an arbitrage bot, we need to, for the contract ABIs and create listener routine pool. Yeah, so inside the contract, you need the interface for each exchange like this. Again, this is just some pseudo code to kind of get the wheels turning. Exchange 1, exchange 2. You need the interface for a basic ERC20 token. You need to get the addresses for each exchange. Here's the Kyber network proxy, and then here's the Uniswap v2 router, and then the token address. And then so basically you have to approve the tokens that you're going to do. And then here's the exchange 1. This is for selling the tokens for Ether, and then buying the tokens, do the arbitrage that way. So this is just a really high level example, but it shows you the idea of how you import the exchanges and do that. Again, we have a full trading bot implementation inside the blockchain mastery program. So that also answers this person's question about, suppose for arbitrage bot, we need to add for the contract ABIs and create a listener routine to pull a few exchange prices on those ABIs. Can this be achieved with Solidity? So you need two different parts. You need the smart contract that does the flash loan and actually calls it and executes the trades. But then you need this second app that's essentially going to be the bot that sits there and watches for the opportunities and calls your smart contract whenever you're going to do that. So somebody says, could you see an example of how the code would be different on a chain like Polygon? So yeah, if you're going to deploy Polygon, the Solidity source code will work, but you have to change basically what you have to change the flash loan provider. So you have to see what flash loan providers exist in the ecosystems. So Aave has expanded to Polygon. So you can go through the developer documentation of Aave, like I was talking about before, implement the Aave provider, okay? And then you would pull out an Aave flash loan. You have to change the smart contract addresses for the cryptocurrencies you're going to borrow, change the addresses for each, interface for each provider, all that type of stuff. Change those settings to actually be supported for the the Polygon network. But otherwise, the rest of the application is the same. Like the buying and the selling, the taking of the flash and the paying it back, that's all the same. It's just you have to change the addresses for those protocols as they exist on those networks. Somebody says, where do we enter DAI address into the contract as hash with ETH? So the flash loan template that we use supports ETH only. The flash loan code inside of the application here does support DAI. Okay, so basically, if you look at this source contracts, let's see here. Leverage yield farm. Yeah, this supports DAI, it supports WETH, it supports lots of different contracts. So here's the DAI address. Somebody's asking me about changing that. So the DAI address is already inside the contract here. So how much gas does a typical flash loan contract use? Is that is a true cost risk of doing trades? Gas. Yeah, so definitely gas is the biggest risk. That's what I was talking about before. So the trade fails and you lose out on the gas. So we can just look at some examples here. So, I mean, the gas could be as much as like, it depends on, the gas is also kind of a variable because typically when people are doing competitive arbitrages, they're paying higher gas fees to outrun one another. So the sky's kind of the limit on what you might pay in Ether. But if you see a big profitable opportunity, you can variably adjust the gas to try to, basically get ahead of that problem. But a typical flash loan transaction like the one we see here, this has 0.02 Ether. Which can be expensive, but if the spread is big enough, then it'll still work. So we're teaching how to code and other classes are the way to set things up. So the Blockchain Bootcamp is the step-by-step instruction on how to learn how to code from scratch. So that's how you get the foundational skills on how to basically implement all this stuff and actually, because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to have to do. You have to get the skills to actually, put these pieces together, create your own strategies, and that's exactly what I show you how to do them through the Blockchain Bootcamp. What would be the max time you could set the weight in the leverage code example using in production? So you can basically, let's see here. You can basically do it as long as the compound finance mining rewards last. Okay, so I don't have the date off the top of my head for when those compound rewards are going to end, but you could theoretically do it that long. So somebody's saying they don't see this on screen. So here's the fee that I was talking about, 0.0265 Ether. Okay, so yes, you can do flash loans on Binance Smart Chain as well. Somebody says, we cannot use the app shared by you and do not any profit right now. We need to code it out and try it. No, so the app that, so the compound finance application you can use and it will be profitable. You will be profitable with the compound tokens that I was showing you here. That being said, there will be some risk with that application because you do have to combine your own funds in order to achieve that profitability, but it doesn't have the zero sum factor like an arbitrage trade does. So the bot is inside the mastery program. So if you join the one-time masterclass line, you want to get access to the membership program, just contact us and we can get you taken care of. We can switch you over to membership. So flashloan profitable right now, yes. Okay, it's a good question here. So does the bot ARB Finder use the chain link price data call feeds? Seems to be fast. So you can use the chain link feeds for this. The easier thing to do is to just look at fetch data from the chain yourself to create a bot that watches that and then calls the trades whenever they happen. But yes, you can use the chain link data feed. That's a more advanced way to do it. You're going to increase the gas costs and the actual contracts that you use to deploy the network that way. But that is one way to do it. So explain the code and some of the imports. They create a lot of compiler errors when executing. So those aren't actually errors. These are just warnings, okay? So the real warning that you're seeing here is basically this experimental ABI encoder, but that's what's required in order to use this advanced Solidity code for this particular compiler version. It's just a warning. It's not an error. It works fine, but it's required in there, and you're going to see the warning. So these unused parameters are basically from the library itself. Again, these are just warnings. There's really no issue with the actual code. Some of them says funds are always at risk, whether it's a gas or a loan. So there will be some, excuse me, sorry, I ran out of my water here. My throat's getting a little dry. So there will be some small risks with the funds when you're talking about either doing it with leverage or if you're talking about attempting flash loan transactions that could fail. There will be some risk involved in that, right? The bigger risk here, talking about the money that you're borrowing, you cannot lose any of that money. So can we code for arbitrage scanner? Yes, you definitely can. That's what we have inside the blockchain mastery program with the arbitrage bot. So would a UI make sense for a program like this? Would it be better to keep it command line? You can do it. You can do it. I would do it as a command line. It keeps things simpler. Because at the end of the day, if you're maintaining the software and you're a developer, you want the least amount of things that can break. And if you do everything via the command line, it's less work for you to create, and then also less for you to debug if something goes wrong. All right, so I'm probably going to reach my 2-hour limit here on my recording. So I'll give it like a 5 to 10 minute warning here on questions. So it stops when the transaction is successful. Can I make this smart contract run continuously without stopping after the transaction success? So basically, what you want to do there is have a bot that keeps looking for the transaction, looking for the opportunities. If you're talking about an arbitrage bot, and then calling them every time you see it. So as a trading bot masterclass updated for new networks, ID Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, we have to make adjustments. So you have to make adjustments, but we're probably going to reboot that class with a new strategy pretty soon. So of course, subscribe. You'll find out about those. You'll get access to it whenever we do it again inside the membership program. Have you seen people doing more complex arbitrage strategies like triangular arbitrage? Yes, you can definitely do triangular arbitrage. That's one of the ways that people are doing it. You can look at any of those examples through the flashloan providers, and you'll find triangular arbitrage examples. So where to contact for Switch membership? So reach out to gregory@dappuniversity.com. That's where we handle all the support questions, and then just talk about switching the monthly membership, and my system will be taken care of. So how much is a good amount of profitable flash loan? So here's a good question. So there's different ways to make profit when you're talking about, arbitrage trading. That's probably what you're asking about. So in these cases, typically, you can do something where you'd make a lot of profit in one transaction, or you can basically be doing lots of different transactions to make smaller profits. So those typically going to be the ways that you can scale out horizontally. You can scale vertically with more per transaction, or you can scale horizontal about more smaller transactions. So, I mean, you can, just because you can borrow $1 million of cryptocurrency doesn't mean you always have to. You might be able to find smaller trades. That's like what we showed inside the Trading Bot Masterclass, where you can do smaller margins. Maybe you're making like $35 on a trade, but you're doing it like over and over and over again. And sometimes, like, you can even see where you might even make a really small amount of money on a trade. But if your bot can do it and capitalize on it, then, like, why wouldn't you just do it? Now, some of these cases, like I said, you will run into front running issues, MEV, all that type of stuff. But that's typically how you combat those things, by just looking at the different opportunities. Okay, so make sure I'm getting all the questions here. So flashlight and net 1, net 2 with a bridge. That's a good question. So I haven't seen examples of that myself personally. I have never done that way personally, but that's interesting to think about. So Adrian says, why don't respond? So I don't know what the question is here. If you can ask it again, Adrian, I'll try to respond to you. What is the average monthly gas fees and average monthly earnings for leverage or arbitrage trading on mainnet? No guarantees, just want a general idea. So, and that really depends. It depends on, it depends on how many strategies that you're employing. I mean, if you're talking about leverage itself, I mean, the actual profit from leverage is going to just basically depend on how much money you can add yourself to the equation, and then the leverage is deterministic based on the amount of exposure you get. You can calculate the compound rewards. So in terms of the actual gas fees, so it depends on basically. It depends on how many trades that you're executing at that point. So you'll have to calculate in some failures, because you're inevitably going to get failures. I mean, it's hard to give you a guaranteed number on exactly how much you're going to make. It depends on how competitive you are, how good you get at actually finding the opportunities. But we've seen opportunities in the past where people are making absolutely buttloads of money with flash loans. It's pretty insane. So can we use flash swap? Can't we use flash swap to argument for the gas fees? I don't think I quite understand that question. So can you go back to how you integrate the call function on the flash loan contract so that other applications can use the loan funds? Yes, totally. So the best way to explain it is to actually just look at it inside of the actual working implementation. So here's the call function, all right, where you get the variables that come back. Okay, so you can see it right here. So once you get the money, all right, and you can see here's the deposit, here's the repay amount. Okay, you can see that we do handle deposit if we're depositing, and that goes through all this code inside of here. which is handle deposit. And then if it's withdrawing, it goes through handle withdrawal. So this is where you create your own custom logic to do whichever you receive the flash loan. So the mainnet flash loan examples, I don't know if we're gonna have time to completely go through mainnet flash loan example because my recording is gonna run out here, but you can do exactly what I was talking about before. Go to the flash loan providers, look at all the recent transactions, look at the flash loan examples, and you'll see all of the flash loan transactions inside of there. And if you're in the membership program, we have a video on there how to automate that process with code and get all the flash loan transactions so you can start sifting through them and go through them. So wire up all these components together for flash loan, leverage, yield farm, plus arbitrage. No, you wouldn't do them all at the same time. You'd be doing one thing at a time. So if you're doing a flash loan strategy for arbitrage, you'd have that contract. If you're doing a flash loan strategy for leverage, you use that contract. So send a link for the blockchain mastery program. So reach out to gregory-university.com if you want to enroll in that. My assistant will get you taken care of. So there is no Aave and BSC, but there's a pancake swap on BSC. Well, ETH moving to proof of stake of flash loans? No, it shouldn't. For the membership, do we have access to the boot camps? The boot camp is separate, but there is a special members only link that you can join the boot camp for. Have you seen people successfully transfer these over to Solana? So I've not personally been exploring the Solana ecosystem. There'll be a little bit different dynamic on Solana though. So where's the code that you're supposed to use? So there should be a link down in the description below for the actual coding implementation. We'll have the code emailed out later in the replay link. So this wasn't already answered. We get the written guide on Git for the DAI yield farmer. So yeah, it's in the code. You can always deploy your own GitHub repository to see it, the README, but here's how it works. So what do we get from the membership program? You get access to all the master classes we do, access to all the past master classes we do. We do a weekly updated video in there. We have a community chat, so if you want to reach out, ask for help, all that type of stuff, you know, it's super, super valuable. So the masterclass bootcamp modules go today. So they're different things. So we reboot the master classes often. We've done this master class before, but we're rebooting it as the opportunities change, and we keep things up to date. All right, everybody. So my recording time limit is going to run out here on Zoom, so I need to wrap up for today, but this is a great class. And if you have any questions and you're in that membership program, feel free to reach out. We'll get you taken care of. If you're not in the membership program, then you want to be, just reach out. We can get you switched over to that. As always, great class, great questions. Thanks for everybody who showed up tonight. If you're watching this later with the replay link, there should be all the resources down in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed this. And until next time, thanks for watching Blockchain Mastery University.